And blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning here at KIDO Talk Radio. Let's go to Washington, D.C. Casey Smedley joining us once again from the Republican National Committee. Casey, good to have you with us.
Great to be with you. I hope you guys had a nice weekend.
Well, we did until we woke up Sunday morning. And for people that aren't familiar with what happened at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, it was a shock and awe.
Well, that's right. Although I think what proving here is that it's just reinforced that President Trump was in the right spot on Saturday night in Washington, Michigan, and not Washington, D.C., being out with real Americans and not the elitist leftists that were in that room.
Right, and it really was a tale of two Americas. On one hand, you have the swamp press getting together, saying some very horrible things about members of the White House staff, and you have the president on the road talking to the people.
Absolutely, and that's just what these members of the press just don't get, is that every time that they sit under their bubble and they laugh at these horrific jokes that are at the expense of good people, that the right wins, the president wins. If they really feel that they are out for this mission to protect free speech and protect real news, quote unquote, then why do they tolerate this? And it's an embarrassment to the White House Press Association that they did not get up there and pull that comedian off the stage or issue an apology right then and there to Sarah Huckabee Sanders in particular, who was just a wonderful champion and just showed her great, tough Christian skin by standing there with just a poised face. And I even heard she showed up at the after party and smiled and waved it off. But she shouldn't have to do that. They should have pulled that woman off the stage.
Well, and many people don't know what happened, but every year there's a big White House Correspondents' Dinner. They've had comedians there in the past, but this Michelle Wolf really crossed a line, many lines.
She absolutely did. When in the past, when the president is there and they have a comedian or someone sort of give a roast, and it's all in good enough natured fun, and it's talking about things that they all more or less are in on the joke, and then the president gets up and he sort of ribs back at the press. But, of course, our president was out in real America, and so he asked Sarah Huckabee Sanders to represent him on his behalf. And she sat there on the stage, on the dais, and this comedian, Michelle Wolf, got up there, and she took the jokes way too far, to the point that I was talking to some friends who were in the room who said the room didn't even receive the jokes well. There were those who predictably laughed, but most people were very uncomfortable. It was cringeworthy just to watch at home. And Mercedes Schlapp, the communications director of the White House, she and her husband got up and walked out. And it did go too far. And Sarah Huckabee Sanders didn't have a chance to then take the podium and say, well, let me talk back to you guys. It was one way. And I think that was a problem as I saw it. But, it has at least gotten a few folks in the left-wing media to say, we got to reformat this, or we need to get rid of this event altogether. This doesn't show the best of us. And more than that, it again showed that the president chose to spend his time very wisely on Saturday by not attending and hanging out with folks in Washington, Michigan.
Well, indeed, just the vulgarity. And, we talk about the Me Too movement, and we've got to hold people accountable. And then you had just the graphic nature stuff that we can't even say on radio. And it was funny because I was watching the Sunday shows, and I'm trying to think. I think it was Frank Luntz that said, "Look, Jonathan, can I say the things that Michelle Wolf said on ABC?" Well, no, you can't. Well, then why? Why are we? Why is this person elevated to this position?
Excellent point. And I think that's exactly it. Is that you've got these folks who are sitting in the room laughing about this, and yet it flies in the face of everything they've been, quote, crusading for. You make a good point with the Me Too movement, and we've had with the Women's March that we should be supporting women and we should be knocking down against men who don't stand up for women. What happens when you have this women-on-women crime? But because she's on the left and she was invited by the left, it's okay. But if the tables had been turned, holy war would break out, and I think that double standard was on prime time display on Saturday night. But again, we can go back and forth about how horrible this was, and it was very horrible, but it just reconfirmed what we on the right believe, and those of us who come from middle America, as I do and you do in these flyover states, that they just don't get it. The media on the left, the Washington elites, They refuse to understand what life's like in the real world. And they think that this is an okay representation, or that this is okay entertainment, quote unquote.
Indeed. Let's talk a little bit about the president. Why did he go, of all places, Washington, Michigan?
Well, I just love that juxtaposition, you know, that they chose deliberately another Washington for him to be in. But of course, the president said, hey, I don't need to sit there in a room full of people who don't represent you and have no interest in accurately representing my administration and the work that I'm doing for you. So I'm going to go straight to you, which I love that he does these rallies. That's really where I think the president shines. And of course, the people love that he comes not just to the regular campaign spots, that he finds these different towns to go to across America. And there's a lot of things for him to tout, whether that's the tax cuts or the denuclearization of North Korea. I mean, these are crazy things that he's been able to get accomplished on behalf of the American people. And I can't blame him for wanting to spend his Saturday night with the American people instead of the room full of Washington elites.
Well, speaking of Washington elites, the Comey tour continues.
Yeah, I was surprised he wasn't in that room on Saturday night, I got to be honest. He seemed to be the only one missing. That's right, it continues. And the problem is, it seems like the more that the book tour continues, the more the lies and the leaks are exposed. And I don't think this is doing anything to rehabilitate his image, which is clearly what he set out to do with this book. And instead, it's just, again, reconfirming no collusion, what the president's been saying all along. And more than that, that there were a lot of nefarious actors. The FBI and the Justice Department were hearing today about former DNI Director James Clapper, who also may have been less than forthcoming with Congress during his testimony. And in fact, he might have been a leaker. All of these things that call into question the integrity of these organizations. And I think I've said it on your show before, it really frustrates me for the rank and file men and women who are diligently dedicated to their job, and to know that people that I'm sure they trust and look up to weren't as committed or had different intentions. And that's very frustrating that they now have to combat that crisis of integrity, especially at the FBI.
Well, and you know, you think about what happened with Michael Cohen and the fact that they went into his office. And I go back to what Senator Paul said with our friend Sean Hannity, that, look, if they can do this to a sitting president, and then you have the culpability of the media just assuming that the feds had the rationale to do it. And, you know, whether it was Sean, whether it was you, whether it was someone else, they pointed out, well, you know, hey, look at how different they treated Hillary Clinton's people with, okay, we're going to tell you what evidence we're looking for. Nope, not that. We don't want to see that, compared to what Michael Cohen's going through.
It's just incredible. And again, as John Q. Citizen out here, John and Jane Q. Citizens, we're looking at that saying, this is true. You guys are trying up ways and down ways. You've got everyone on your side, all the bias in the media on your side, trying to tell us that they're there, or that they have a right to do this as they are. And yet, as it comes out, it's not there, and it's not true, and it's not okay, and it is a double standard. And that's the problem that we have going away from this, is that it's called into question all of these people that we typically took for their word. And that's the real, again, crisis of integrity that we have with our FBI and, you know, really with our Justice Department. And the double standard with the Clintons. I mean, if you could do this with Michael Cohen, how is Hillary Clinton not under trial, not under investigation, not on trial? And that's how I see it, as just a regular person looking at this who doesn't have all of the extra information. And I don't think I need it. I think they're telling us quite enough. And again, I like that so much of this is coming out in James Cohen's book, and just not quite the book tour he anticipated.
No, indeed. So where do we go to next this week? What should we be looking forward to?
Well, I think you got to keep your eye on North Korea, and as those talks are coming up anytime. And obviously, last week was a historic week with the summit between the Koreas together. And I got to give a hat tip to some of those mainstream media folks who never give a kind word to our president. They are giving him full credit for his influence in this process. And certainly with our newly minted Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, who's already hitting the road, reconfirming relationships with our allies, I think he's going to continue to be instrumental there. And so expect the president to keep his eye on the prize here. And despite what we might hear, any media distractions, I do think that this Korea example issue summit coming up is something that should rightly dominate the news.
Well, Casey, we always appreciate you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Have a great week.
All right. Casey Smedley joining us here. Phone numbers 580-5436, 580-KIDO. It was a tough night last night. You could have been watching Homeland, Billions, Steve Harvey with the little kids, and then Doogie Howser, the guy that played Doogie Howser. He did another show with the little kids. Or you could have watched another debate on Idaho Public Television, this time involving all the congressional candidates. And, of course, there's a big GOP debate tonight coming up as well on Channel 7. A lot going on. Coming up next, though, if you didn't hear what this comedian did, we're going to get your reaction there. Total leftist, swampist rhetoric that just shows you what we're up against. We'll talk about that. Plus, we'll try and figure out who's going to be the next congressman here in Idaho. All that before 9 a.m. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. All right, so what would happen if they held a congressional debate and nobody turned up? That was Idaho Public Television's congressional debate last night. I think that's the only one that they're going to have. I don't know if Channel 7 is going to have one, but the big line of the night, and I really didn't get a chance to watch it because there was just so much to do and so much sleep to get, was from Christy Perry. And you're going to love this one. Quote, we know, and I'm trying to find the video and the audio. I can't seem to find it anywhere. But I will do my best Christy Perry impersonation. We know the average congressman is a 58-year-old white male, right? And what have they given us? $21 trillion in debt, a bankrupt Social Security system, and no solutions for a health care system. Now, again, she's pandering to the female vote. But if you're a 50-something, a 40-something-year-old white male, what does that mean? Don't vote for Christy Perry? And let's go to Liberty Linda. Liberty Linda, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Yes, good morning, Kevin. You know, I grew up always proud of this country and the government that our founding fathers gave us. You know, I never really got involved with government, and that's because I thought our leaders knew what they were doing and that they were doing the right things for us. So anyway, one day I was listening to Hannity and Combs, and, you know, here we have our senators, you know, our congressmen on the show and everything, and they were all calling our government a democracy. And it was like, wait a minute, these are the leaders of our country, and they do not know what kind of a country our founding fathers gave us? I couldn't believe that, Kevin. And that's when I first got involved in government. Something's going on wrong in our country if our leaders don't even know what kind of country we have or what kind of government we have. And I think there are many people out there today that were like me. That's when I decided, okay, I got to find out what's going on. And now today, with those people that were like me, we have the millennials out there who have been brainwashed in the wrong thing. And so I think we have a lot of that today that's going on in our country.
Well, I would agree with you. I mean, we have the most competitive race going on in Idaho politics and how many people are engaged. But back to the point here, Liberty Linda, what do you think of, and I like I said, we're working feverishly for the sound. Usually someone will put it on YouTube, but it isn't there yet. But we know the average congressman is a 58-year-old white male, right? Perry said. And what have they given us? $21 trillion in debt, a bankrupt Social Security system, and no solution for health care. So why would anybody say that? I mean, isn't that, an inflammatory sexist comment? Or maybe it's the right opinion. What do you think?
Well, I think many people just need to wake up to what's going on in our nation. You know, and I think that the only people involved would be a 58-year-old white person. Pretty soon we're not going to have anyone that's going to run for governor or for whatever position they want to run for. They won't be interested. And
well, you see how look at how the negative campaigning has impacted people throughout the race right now. We have people calling Russ Fulcher a career campaigner. You've got the attacks on Dr. Alquist, the attacks on Congressman Labrador, the attacks on Lieutenant Governor Brad Little, and really no one's held anybody accountable. We've all just kind of said, well, I wish it would stop.
Well, they have to really listen to what they're saying. Sometimes they'll say something negative about another candidate. It doesn't make any sense. You have to think it out. And, even I have to do that. and you have to do that. We all do. We have to really try to understand what a person is saying if they're saying something negative about another person. I like to go with the positive myself.
Well, maybe you don't have to, though. Maybe you don't have to because you want the disinformation out there.
Well, yes, of course. Many people are trying to put the disinformation out there. Yeah, I understand that. That's why we have to really listen closely and try to understand what they're saying. And, I don't know. So much of what's going on today is in our scriptures. It's amazing how these people in our scriptures, the apostles, they know what's going on. They foretold what was going to go on at this time in our nation. And it's amazing when you put the two together. But, yeah, we have to really listen and know what they're saying out there. And because so many times people call in and they'll say something, and you think about it, and wait a minute, that doesn't connect. It can't be correct. So anyway, that's what I had to say today. Between the older 58 whites, that we won't have too many of them involved in government after this, within, let's say, the next 10 years.
Well, I hope you're wrong, Liberty Linda.
Well, I hope so, too. I hope that I know we have some great people running right now. I do know that. We have some wonderful people running, and I'm thankful for that. So let's just try to find all those good people out there. And like I said, we need to wake up to what's going on in our nation.
Well, you need to wake up.
In another hour.
Liberty Linda, thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
All right, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Kevin Miller in the morning here. As we move along, 6:26, time to get up and start the day. And we continue on taking your calls at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Thankfully, I have found the audio from the Idaho debates. This is either going to be very good or very, very bad. Let's take a listen to State Representative Perry last night.
Public television and for everyone who participated in making these debates possible tonight. I'd also like to thank my husband and my family for joining us in the audience today as well. For those of you who have never met me, my name is Christy Perry, and I'm a strong, conservative, Republican, Christian woman from Canyon County, who, along with my husband, own and operate a gun shop here in Idaho. And as many of you already know me, I'm the girl with all the guns. I come from hardworking Christian people who have never been handed a thing. I'm the first person in my family to graduate from college. I have a bachelor's degree, a master's degree. I have served as a Republican precinct committeeman, and I'm a 4-term Republican legislator from the Agricultural District of Canyon County. And I'm here tonight because I want to be your next congressional representative from the 1st District. Right now, the average congressman is a 58-year-old white male who's been there for a long time, and almost half of them are lawyers. Very similar to half the candidates on this stage, except me. And my one question for you tonight is, what have these good old boys done for you lately? I'll tell you. They've given us a $21 trillion deficit. They have bankrupted the Social Security Trust Fund. They have no solution for our health care crisis or immigration crisis. And right now they're working on rules to infringe on your Second Amendment rights. We need something different. We need a strong, conservative, Republican, Christian woman in Congress.
There we have it. So your thoughts on what Representative Perry said. We'll also go live to Washington. We've got a lot to do today. We're very pumped up. By the way, Eagle High School this week, promoting our school, securing our future. And in addition to that, a double Kevin Miller on the road. Friday will be at Independence indoor shooting. We're pumped up about that as well. We'll explain our Second Amendment Friday salute coming up as well. A lot going on this morning, though. Your thoughts on what Representative Perry said. Maybe you want to pick your favorite congressional candidate. And, of course, the unfortunate comments from Michelle Wolf. A lot going on today. We're just getting started. Thank you for starting your day with us on the right side. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie.
Good morning, Kevin.
And coming up, much more of our review and commentary on the big gubernatorial debate, previewing tonight's governor's debate, actually the congressional debate. You get them kind of mixed up. Thankfully, we have John Decker at the White House who will explain everything here at KIDO Talk Radio. So, John, I know we were supposed to talk about the Trump weekend, but were you at a certain event Saturday night?
Oh, yes. You're talking about, of course, the White House Correspondents' Dinner. And, yes, I was. This was my 24th White House Correspondents' Dinner. I was at the head table because I'm an elected board member of the WHCA. I will tell you right up front, I had zero input in choosing the talent, the entertainer, the comedian. I had nothing to do with that. And from my vantage point, being at the head table, being on the dais, I can see everybody's reaction, Kevin, and just a lot of uncomfortableness in the room during Michelle Wolf's routine.
And, John, for people that may are just beginning to hear about this, they didn't watch the Sunday shows, they didn't watch it live on C-SPAN or CNN, can you give us a firsthand account of what happened?
Well, firsthand account. It was a typical evening up until the point of the comedian's routine. Her routine was, in my estimation, I thought it was very personal. It was crude. It was inappropriate. And that's not what you want. You know, I think that she was very personal in her criticism of Sarah Sanders, the White House press secretary. And, you know, my attitude is, you know, Sarah was our guest. She was at the head table. And when you have a guest over to your house, you know, you want to make them feel welcome. And obviously, we did not make her feel welcome. And I think that's just not the right thing to do. Well,
and again, the lines were crossed attacking Sarah Sanders personally, along with Kellyanne Conway. And as a board member of the White House Correspondents, how are we grappling with it? I heard, I was watching the Sunday shows, and there was real difficulty with the folks that are paid to talk about issues, trying to respond to what happened the night before.
Well, one of the things that has taken place since the dinner is that the White House Correspondents Association president put out a statement in which he said that members of the association have expressed what she referred to as dismay and concern over how Wolf's routine at the dinner reflects on our mission. There was something that, she didn't include. I suggested to the WHCA president that the WHCA apologize specifically, personally, to Sarah, but for whatever reason, she decided not to include that in her statement. I personally sent a note to Sarah. I had nothing to do with the comedian in terms of choosing her, but I felt it necessary just to send her a note because she was our guest, and I don't think that's the right way to treat a guest.
Well, and here you have the White House sending Sarah Sanders, then all of a sudden you have this reaction. How does this impact the relationship between the White House correspondents and the White House press office, which I believe we'll find out today?
Well, there's going to be a press conference today. I doubt very much anybody's going to ask a question. There's a lot of important things happening in this world right now. North Korea, Iran, to waste a question talking about the White House Correspondents Association dinner. But it will be asked this week. I have no doubt. It will be asked if there's a press briefing tomorrow, Kevin. Someone will ask that question of Sarah Sanders. And I spoke to her immediately after the dinner. I was seated just a few seats away from her. And so I just, she was sort of shell-shocked in terms of what happened, in terms of the way the comedian went after her personally. But, she's solid. I mean, she's got a thick skin. She handled it. Some people may have walked off the stage, but she sat there and took it, and that, shows a lot about her character.
Indeed. John Decker, sometimes we forget, though, and I'm not speaking of you, but perhaps folks in the stands, that, Sarah Sanders is a mom. She's a wife, a a daughter. We look at people as objects, not as real life people.
That's right. She has a life, outside of just serving as the press secretary to President Trump. I had an opportunity to see her kids last week when it was Bring Your Children to Work Day. And I was at a reception with her and her husband at the British Embassy on Friday night, and he's a really terrific person. So, obviously this person that wrote this comedy routine does not know what Sarah Sanders is like as an individual. And if she knew her the way I know her, if she's a decent person, maybe she wouldn't have cracked those jokes at her expense.
Indeed. So let's move on to the president. The president shrewdly in Washington, another Washington, and had a lot to say about, just about everything.
Yeah, he did. He had this counter-programming taking place, which was in Washington, Michigan. And during that event, he touched on quite a few subject matters. And, it was a typical campaign rally, huge crowd. And it was vintage Donald Trump, not sticking to the teleprompter in any way.
Indeed. I love how you said that, counter-programming. Finally, John, appreciate your time here this morning. Anything specific in a big week that we should be looking out for?
Well, there's a press conference today, so the president is certainly going to get 2 questions from the press corps. I'll be attending that. Right now it's scheduled to take place early this afternoon, our time, in the White House Rose Garden. Aside from that, the president tweeting this morning the idea of having his one-on-one meeting with Kim Jong-un at the Joint Security Area, the DMZ. I've been there, as you know. I think it's a fine spot. If he wants to make that long trip, it's easy for Kim Jong-un to travel there. So maybe that's where their one-on-one meeting will take place sometime in June.
Boy, the historic significance of that, John Decker. We all so appreciated your firsthand accounts of being at the DMZ. We don't want to take you up all morning. We know you're very busy. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thanks a lot, Kevin. Have a great day.
You too. Our great friend John Decker joining us. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. So at this White House Correspondents' Dinner, there was a comedian, and she said a lot of bad things that we can't repeat. We won't even go there because we're a family-friendly show. But here's just a little taste of what this comedian said about the president, about Sarah Sanders, about Kellyanne Conway.
We are graced with Sarah's presence tonight. I have to say I'm a little starstruck. I love you as Aunt Lydia in The Handmaid's Tale. The most useful information on CNN is when Anthony Bourdain tells me where to eat noodles.
So there we have it, the shock stand-up at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, the swamp in rare form, and, here we are in the Me Too movement. Here we are where we have poor Bill Cosby getting the boot. Oh, Bill Cosby's bad, but Harvey Weinstein, we can let him fly. Bill Clinton, we can let him fly. And you have this comedian, who I've never heard of, Michelle Wolf, just going after people personally. Kellyanne Conway, Saturday Night Live. And what's the purpose of this? These people don't like Donald Trump. They don't like middle America. And by the way, this is where the president was, as John Decker said, in Washington, Michigan.
We got to go out. We got to go out, and we got to fight like hell, and we got to win the House, and we got to win the Senate. And I think we're going to do great in the Senate, and I think we're going to do great in the House, because the economy is so good.
If only the Republicans were as so confident as Donald J. Trump.
By the way, is this better than that phony Washington White House Correspondents' Dinner? Is this more fun?
There we have it. I love what John Decker said. Counter-programming. Counter-programming. So if you're just tuning in, comedian Michelle Wolf defending herself on social media Sunday after roasting the White House press secretary, Sarah Sanders. Here is our own Ellison Barber with the very latest at KIDO Talk Radio.
Wolf responded to some of the criticisms, writing on Twitter, "Why are you guys making this about Sarah's looks? I said she burns facts and uses the ashes to create a perfect smoky eye. I complimented her eye makeup and her ingenuity of materials." In another tweet, Wolf pushed back on the suggestion that her jokes were about Sanders' appearance. She said they were about Sanders' quote, "despicable behavior." Here's some of what was said.
Every time Sarah steps up to the podium, I get excited because I'm not really sure what we're going to get. You know, a press briefing, a bunch of lies, or divided into softball teams. It's shirts and skins.
For the second year in a row, President Trump declined an invitation to attend the dinner and instead held a rally of his own in another Washington, Michigan.
There you have it. So the president basically doing his own thing, saying, I'm not going to be a creature of the swamp. I'm not going to be beholden to comedians. And there's no purpose for this. If you're there to cover something, and look, let me just say this to you. At 580-5436, 580-KIDO, and I love what Lars Larson says. He talks about talk journalism. What we do here is opinion-based. We're an opinion-based show. Now, sometimes we delve into the realm of news reporting. And if you've noticed lately, whether it's at the national level, whether it's at the state level or the local level, it's not about the story anymore. It's about the personality of the news reporter. And the idea that they use the word I. Now, having been trained as a journalist for the United States Army many years ago and a fan of great journalists, it's always about the story. It's writing in the third person. Today, we don't see that. Today, we don't do that. And I always figure, look what I did. No, I don't care what you did. I want to know about the story. Because that's what people tune into. Like in this show, they tune into opinion, sometimes to voice it, sometimes to hear it. At 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Let's go to Security Guard Mike on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Security Guard Mike.
Hey, Kevin Miller. I just had to call in that. Michelle Wolf. Oh, my goodness gracious. Where are the Bob Hopes and the Johnny Carsons that could give a roast and not sound like such not bad people? I mean, they could jab you a little bit and you got a little joke out of it. But, boy, that lady was vicious, mean.
Where's Jay Leno?
Downright vicious. Oh, yeah, Jay Leno, too. But they wiped those guys off the planet because they want mean people. They like mean people. They don't like nice people. They don't like people that could give you a little jab and then you get a little laugh and then it's nothing, no big deal. But this lady was just dang right vicious. Sorry for the dang. But anyway, you're awesome, Kevin Miller. I just had to call in. That lady is just insane. I don't know what's wrong with her. She shouldn't even be allowed. She should go to a mental hospital. Oh, my goodness gracious. You take care, Kevin Miller. You're awesome. People of Idaho are great. Love them all. And just when you get out there to vote for the governor, vote for the right guy. So
who you got in the governor's race? Who you got in the congressional race?
Well, personally, I like Tommy Alquist because I've met him. I've met the other governors, and I've seen them, and I just think Tommy Alquist is going to serve you, and you're not going to serve him. That's just my personal opinion. And then I like Christy Perry.
Christy Perry, wow.
Yeah, I think she's pretty cool. I mean, I met her. I seen her at. I work at the VA. She comes in there from time to time, just helps just to talk to the veterans, and I've seen her do it. And I've seen Hagedorn in there a few times to talk to the veterans. And, I mean, just to talk to them. I mean, what a nice people. I mean, they don't have to take the time out of their busy schedule to come and do that, but they do it. So, and I've seen them do it, so, with my own eyes. So, but anyway, that's what I just wanted to call and talk about that Michelle Wolf, that lady, guy, whatever she is now, whatever she identifies as.
She's a lady, Security Guard Mike.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, that's how she identifies. That's good. That's good. All right, you take care, Kevin Miller. You're awesome, and you're the greatest, okay?
You take care. Day. Thank you, Security Guard Mike.
Bye-bye.
All right, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. By the way, Ray Amaya, thank you very much. Here are some of the debate questions from the Idaho Public Television debate.
How would you work with a potential Democratic majority in Congress?
I don't know. One guy couldn't even put up his tie last night. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't be a hater. Let me apologize in advance for hating on the congressional debate last night that Probably nobody watched.
Have you seen any comments or behavior from President Trump that raised ethical concerns for you?
It's going to be a great morning. Thank you for starting your day with us. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio.
KIDO Talk.
They're making to land management.
I'm going to have to cut you off. We have about 3 minutes until closing comments, so you are all going to get bonus points for keeping it brief from me. Don't make me cut you off. Last questions from Betsy Ross.
Wow, there we have the congressional debate that, unfortunately, I don't think a lot of people watched. Coming up next hour, we'll review that. Good morning, Kevin Miller in the morning here at KIDO Talk Radio. That was for the 1st Congressional District. By the way, Chris Body tickets. Is it Body or Body, Ray? Body? Your guess is as good as mine. It's Monday. He'll be coming to the Morrison Center. This is going to be big. This is for Sunday, May 6th. Thank You Thursday is brought to you by Chris Body. Let's get back to the phones at KIDO Talk Radio. John, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Good morning, Ken. Good morning, Kevin. How are you today?
Not bad. What can we do for you?
Well, I'm just curious to when the silent majority that listen to your show and the other show and just stand up and say, we've had enough. The correspondence and ripping people apart, the negative ads by the politicians, the corruption in Washington that Sean Hannity has stated for 2 years now, evidence of criminal actions, and nothing's happening. And I'm just wondering, when are we as a people going to stand up and say, we've had enough, it's time to change?
I think we did that with the election of the president.
Yes, but now we need to stay with it, though. You know, and we need to just say no. We need these replacements. We need to demand term limits and just cycle in better people that really care about what we want, not what they're going to put in their pockets. So,
well, John, I agree with you, but we've still got the radical left, the swamp creatures, both in Idaho and in Washington, D.C., that are going to fight us every step of the way. We've got 8 years of Obama to get over.
Yeah, I know. And it's hurt me. It's hurt everybody. But we seem to just tolerate it. And if we raised our voices the way the radicals on the left do, I think it would change things. We need to speak out.
Great point, John. Thank you for listening to KIDO Talk Radio. Let's get you to... And Kevin Miller in the morning. Coming up, a Western senator very close to us has drawn the ire of President Trump, plus much more on the swamp creatures in Idaho and in Washington. And let's drain it. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning.